Hi, my name is Caitlin Reinsma, and I'd like to talk to you today about Tanzanian bird diversity. Although Tanzania is a relatively small country when compared to the United States, only about 1/10 of the size, they have approximately equal bird diversity, as you can see here, about 1,050 species in Tanzania and only a slight increase, 1,114 species for the United States. Why are Tanzanian birds so diverse? Over the entire trip, I cataloged every bird species we identified, which ended up being 104 bird species over the 14 days we were there. We also did more targeted research in Shiva and conducted point counts, which are simply identifying all of the birds in a certain area that you can within a given amount of time. And we ended up conducting 5 point counts for a total of 1 hour and found 8 species out there. An amazing amount of diversity given the limited amount of time that we had for birding, our poorer than average birding equipment, and then of course I am completely new at identifying any sort of African bird, so my ID abilities were also very limited. We can describe why Tanzania has this huge amount of bird diversity using niche theory, which is one of the most popular and historical theories for biological diversity. So pretend that this brown line is the amount of resources that you have in an environment. And you can see each species here represented by their own colored curve. And each of these curves takes up a specific portion of those resources. So in this case, it's making a 3-species community. When you increase the resources available to a community, oftentimes you find that more species can occupy that community. So as you can see here, our 3-species community increased to a 5-species community with that addition of resources and that increase in that brown line. Another way to increase the number of species in an area is to increase the number of habitat types for each of those species to occupy. So the amount of resources doesn't change, but the specialization of those resources changes. So each species is capable of using a smaller variety of those resources. What does that mean for Tanzania? In this map by NASA in 2010, we can see the amount of primary production, which we can loosely associate with the amount of resources for the globe. And if you zoom in on the approximate area of Tanzania, you see that the amount of resources in Tanzania is relatively high for the globe. And then if you look at this map of land classification by Vito Remote Sensing in 2015, you can see that the area near Tanzania has a large variety of habitat types that allows for increased species because of that increased specialization. So according to niche theory, because Tanzania has this increase in resources relative to the rest of the globe and increase in habitat types, we would expect Tanzania to have an increased number of species out there. Another way that Tanzania is providing for this abundance of bird species is through protected areas. Protected areas guard and improve those resources I just spoke to you about for birds. These protected areas also increase public interest and awareness in these bird species. And finally, these protected areas can benefit people, of course, through tourism and ecosystem services. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to everybody who made this trip possible.